Who said that children can't change the world? This is Teenage Tech Stories, the podcast where today's teens talk about their incredible technological achievements. From developing groundbreaking algorithms to innovating in healthcare or even leading their own non-profit organizations, these young entrepreneurs are proof that it's never too early to start making the world a better place. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Teenage Tech Stories. My name is Beatriz Valero and joining me for this edition is Vetri Vel. Vetri is a high school student from Maine and he was inspired by his grandmother to build an affordable and effective fall detection algorithm for the elderly. Falls are the main cause of injury for Americans over the age of 65, and with his project, Vetri wanted to address this issue. Hi Petri, it's great to have you in the podcast. To begin, why don't you just take a second and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Vetri Vel and I'm 16 years old and I'm from Bangor High School in Bangor, Maine.
Okay, perfect. And how did you first get interested in coding and technology?
So I think I first got interested in programming when I got a Raspberry Pi, which is a small microcomputer, in 6th grade. And then I got a little Python book to go with it. And I was just working through a bunch of the Python exercises. It was really cool because you could then interface the Raspberry Pi with LEDs and get them to blink in different patterns and stuff like that, but also do interesting computations on the Raspberry Pi. And so I got interested in technology because it's like an extension of math and science. It allows you to make stuff that interacts with the real world.
Yeah, those computers are great to get people into coding.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about your fall detection system. What inspired you to create it and where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so the initial inspiration for my project was actually hearing that my grandmother had fallen in India, and my grandpa thankfully noticed within a few minutes and drove her to the hospital. But this made me think about what would have happened if he was out of the house or sleeping or something. And then this was an issue after the fall that would have needed immediate assistance. So that would have been very bad if he wasn't there immediately. And my neighbor had a story about her elderly mother falling after removing a medical alert pendant, and then she forgot to wear it after removing it. And then when she fell, she couldn't call for help, and only the next day did people check on her, and she had a broken hip, and she had to go to the hospital. And then I looked up the statistics behind falls, and I found that it's a huge issue with over a quarter of older adults and half of the oldest adults falling each year. And quick assistance after fall is critical and can reduce their hospitalization by 26% and their death rate by 80%. So I wanted to create a system that can immediately detect these falls.
Yeah, those are terrible statistics, really awful. And obviously your grandmother's good now, which is really great. So tell me about how you're solving this problem. How does your system work?
When designing my system, I first had some goals for engineering it. And one of them was that I wanted it to be a wall-mounted system that people don't have to wear or anything. And then the others were like it being as low cost as possible, working in the dark, maintaining privacy, stuff like that. So I ended up being able to meet those by using a thermal camera, like a low resolution 80 by 60 pixel thermal camera, and actually interfacing it with the Raspberry Pi microcomputer. And then I used deep learning to analyze the images and see if it thinks someone is in a fallen posture in the image. So when designing my system, I learned how to interface it with thermal camera and how to get it to send data to the Raspberry Pi, and then how to use neural networks, feed forward neural networks to manipulate the data and give me scores corresponding to what probabilities it thinks someone is fallen.
Okay, so how does it work? When someone falls, does it make a noise, send a text or something?
Yeah, so if someone falls, after 30 seconds or so, if they still remain on the floor and it thinks they're fallen and not moving very much, then it'll call for help, and it can send a text message to a list of contacts. It doesn't have to immediately emergency medical services.
Cool. So what was the most difficult part to design?
For me, maybe learning the deep learning and machine learning, and right now I'm working on reducing the false positives and making it more robust. But initially I was learning about how to actually make neural networks and what architecture I wanted to use. And I also kind of wanted to learn what the hype was behind deep learning and stuff.
And have you had a chance to test it somewhere with real people?
I'm planning to, just by getting an older adult who's a volunteer and who's willing to have it in their actual room in the nursing facility. And I think the system would actually be more effective in nursing homes right now because they only have 1 or 2 rooms per individual that need to be monitored. And then I would just have it operate as it would normally, and then I'll see any false positives or any errors that it has. So then I can go back and fix the issues in the real-time algorithm. Since I wasn't able to do that yet, I did implement it for a week in my room and got some data.
Find us at Tech for Good on LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter at techforgood_.
Sounds really exciting. And obviously, you were a finalist at the Regeneron Science Competition. So, what does that mean to you? What was the experience like? And obviously, congratulations.
Yeah, so the Regeneron Science Talent Search is, a really great competition, and it's for high school seniors. And I think it's just the U.S. though, and anybody who wants to can submit their application. But part of it is your normal high school performance, but then also a full research paper documenting your research project and stuff. And they also want to hear about your activity in math and science competitions, like math Olympiad and physics Olympiad type performance. So they take all of those, and I think they get each year around 1,800 applicants, and so they take all that into account, and then they narrow it down to 300 scholars. And so I was happy to be in the 300 scholars, and then I really didn't think I was going to make a cut from 300 to top 40 finalists. But thankfully, I did, and that was like a great moment because that also comes with 25,000 for college. And then, so the top 40, they have a great competition over the course of like a few weeks, but that actual judging happens over 4 days or 5 days. So before the judging, we had a lot of events and stuff. And then also after the judging, we had events like one of the biggest ones was talking to 4 previous STS alumni that were now Nobel Prize winners. And they gave us a lot of so they gave us a lot of insight into their research and how they got to the point of winning a Nobel Prize from after completing STS and so on. And there was stuff like touring a SpaceX facility and stuff. So, but the actual judging, and they did a really good job. And so they had a few days of panel judging where they ask you just tough questions, random questions in science. And, most kids definitely would not know the answer, even among the top 40. So they just want to see how you think about these questions. And some of them don't really have answers. So they just want to see how you think about it and how you get to some sort of answer. And then after those, there was a few days of project judging where the judges had all thoroughly read your paper, any demo videos you made, and they came in with really pointed questions about your project and trying to pick holes in it and stuff. And that made me think really hard about my project as well. And thankfully, I think I was able to answer a lot of them and show that I had thought about them, but some of them were really good points about my project. So after those days of judging, we have a lot of events. And then at the end of STS, they announced the top 10. So they get us into a live Zoom meeting and they have a production studio and stuff. And they have a big introduction, and one of the finalists, she was selected as a speaker to talk about the finals week and how it went for us. And then finally at the end, there's the top 10. And so 10th place came, I wasn't there, and then 9th place and so on. And I as it counted down, I was thinking I was definitely not going to be in the top 10. But then finally 6th place came up, and then my face popped up. So I was really surprised and happy. And then that was 80,000 for college. So that was definitely a good feeling.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Okay, so after this competition, do you have any idea of what you want to do next or any other projects?
Yes. So with my project, I'm not sure if I'm going to go for a patent because I wanted to make it completely open source. And right now it's all the parts and schematics and the programs are posted on GitHub. So technically anybody can order the same exact thermal camera and the Raspberry Pi and stuff and wire it together and then run the programs that I have. And so I think there's still a way to get a patent and keep it open source. So I think I might go after that, but I still have to refine the system a little bit more. Maybe this summer, over a few weeks, I actually will implement it in a nursing home.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned college. Do you have any plans for that as well?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get admitted to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Congrats.
Yeah, that had been my goal. And that's where I really want to go since I think 6th or 7th grade. So now that I'm there, I think my 2 subjects that I want to study are electrical engineering, which is kind of related to my project. But then also one of my favorite subjects in high school has been physics. So I think I'm going to try. It's hard because MIT is already rigorous with one major, but I'll try to double major.
Okay, that sounds really exciting. And for my last question, just wanted to ask if there's something or someone that inspires you?
In terms of someone, I'd say my parents. For example, my dad's story is pretty inspiring. So he grew up in a farming community in India, and he lived in a small, maybe clay house or something. So they had only a little bit of money left over for disposable income left over for stuff. And my dad's dad spent almost all of it on books for my dad, and they had to walk to like some bookstore that was 30 minutes away and and get the books there. And then he studied really hard. Like I think after school he studied for like 8 or 10 hours each day to get into the Indian Institute of Technology, which at that time I think had a 0.5% acceptance rate. Back then it was a lot harder than even it is now. Like I think it was 0.5% acceptance rate. So he studied for like 2 years, 8 to 10 hours a day after school. And finally, he took the entrance exam and got in. And then after going to IIT, he had the resources to come to the US for graduate school. So that's a person I find inspiring. But then in terms of something, I'd say science in general, because science is always moving forward, and we're always building upon knowledge and making technology that makes people's lives easier and more comfortable and stuff. Like I hope my project does, but also advances in medicine. And then advances eventually in electrical engineering and physics, and like getting us to Mars and that kind of stuff. I think that's all really cool.
Well, I'm sure he's really proud of you as well. And that's a really inspiring story. Also, I think a great place to end today's podcast. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, well, thanks for interviewing me today, though.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Teenage Tech Stories. Like, review, subscribe, or visit us at techforgood.net to read more about today's guest and other incredible people who are using technology to make the world a better place.